I welcome y'all to the PPL live show. Shit's liver than a California sideshow. On the board, all the teams talking mad shit, especially when the squad gets their ass kicked. PPL's like a bad bitch with an ass lift. Everybody wants to get some action, making trades while we're drafting. One of a kind, no other they can match it. PPL ever coming to you live. 12 years strong and we're never gonna die. Real talk so you know we'll never lie. Betting down 50 trying to win the whole pie. Let's get this shit cracking. Welcome to the best sports show on the planet. Damn it. Tune in to the PPL live show. Kick your feet up like the blunt, get your eyes low. PPL get you ready for the week. Co-host Matt Page shows hate when he speaks. Gino and the Jake gonna speak what he see. PPL motherfucker, I'm a OG. I'm ready for the shit to get started. Time to find out who's good and who's garbage. It's time to find out who the next champ is. Trying to win the whole pot, time to go cash in. World War III, time to load up your team. Hit the battlefields, leaving blood on the scene. You can speak what you think, I don't care what you mean. Focused on me, steady building my team. Now I'm sicker than COVID-19. EJ hops on the throne, but I'm coming for a seat. So's everyone else in the league. I just don't see a challenger stronger than me. With that said, dog, I'm ready for war now. Like I'm strapped in the hood, kicking doors down. PPL is my game now. Used to be fun, but the shit in the game now. Bringing the pain now. Opposition's laid down. Done with the flow, dog. Nothing left to say now.
And that was our man Charlie White giving us the 2020 intro to PPL Live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Geno the Gent here. And yes, it's finally time. The draft is over. Keepers have been declared. Rosters are set. We are here. We are set. We are ready for week 1 of PPL action. I got man Ulysses as Hate here on the line. This is Geno the Gent. And we're going to jump right into it, starting with our first matchup. The Gaff Attack taking on the Skulls. All right, man, we got the Gaff taking on the Skulls here in this first matchup. Omega Conference strong teams in past years. At least the Skulls were last year, the Gaff the year before. But they didn't have as strong a draft as they probably hoped. What do you think of this matchup, man?
I mean, the matchup is going to be what it is. I think that as I look at it, I think I'm slightly leaning to the Skulls. But to your first, we got to address the draft. I mean, both of these teams, I think, did pretty good in the first round. I think the Gafflins got their guy in Dak. I think that Tyler Lockett was a good value pick for the Skulls in that position. Right. And I don't know if I remember a draft where two teams totally nullified the value of their first pick.
No.
DK Metcalf, I mean, you can't play him and Tyler on the same week. And then Russell Wilson, same with Dak. So what's going on with these two guys? I think that they've got problems up and down their rosters after that draft. But bringing it back to week 1, you know, I think that again, I'm slightly favoring the Gaff here, but I think that what we really don't know is this Buccaneers at New Orleans situation. I think that, you know, really what it'll come down to is, you know, in this matchup, I think New Orleans wins that, and the Gaff ultimately is going to have to make up points elsewhere, which I think he can on his roster. I think with the Buccaneers on this side, I mean, it hurts. It hurts in the Skulls as well. And plus, again, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, I'd be surprised if there isn't some movement on this. You know, I expect that game, if it goes to a shootout, you know, hey, maybe it works out. But I think the Gaff gets a week 1 victory. Very close, though. I'm going to say 111, 108.
Okay. Slightly favor the Skulls in this matchup. But I will totally agree with you on as far as the draft strategies here. I would say the Gaff more so than the Skulls, because the Skulls, at least, I mean, they could just close their eyes and choose one. But when you pick a guy like Dak with the first pick and then you pick Russell Wilson with the second pick, I mean, it's nonsensical just based on the fact that you could have picked somebody else. I mean, you could have got James Conner in the first and Russell Wilson in the second, or Dak in the first and maybe another strong receiver in the second. So I didn't understand that. And then obviously, like you said, 2 receivers on the same team with your first 2 picks. I mean, I don't even like a running back and a receiver from the same team typically. So 2 receivers is always going to be, you know, a little weird, a little sketchy, a little hard to choose. As far as the matchup goes, down the line, I think that the Skulls probably have guys who are going to be in higher scoring matchups and probably guys who are going to be playing towards their strengths. I'm looking at Le'Veon Bell. That game against Buffalo is going to be a running game. I like Watson in the air game for against Kansas City. They're going to be airing the ball out. And then I think Waller's going to have a big game. On the Gaff side, Dak Prescott at LA Rams. I can see that game being a little more low scoring than people expect. And I can see the running games also taking hold in that game. Of course, Dak's a big play guy, and he can also run the ball near the goal line. So he's always likely to get some points. But I think the Skulls sneak by. I think that they can answer anything the Gaff has. I say the Skulls wins this one 118 to 109. Right. Moving on to our next matchup, we go into the Alpha Conference as we have the Mean Machine taking on the Baby Gas team. All right, man. So the Mean Machine had a solid draft, not spectacular. Nothing stood out besides really the Daniel Jones pick. That was a big time pick because that's obviously going to shape the direction of their team. And then of course the BGT, they went with the auto draft strategy. And they just, they redrafted DJ Moore, a guy they could have kept. What do you think of these two teams, the matchup, and everything else?
Yeah, I think that, it's unfortunate the BGT weren't able to be there. I think they wouldn't have gone in that direction. That being said, I mean, I think that they ended up with a solid team. Mm-hmm. But I think that it is going to be a bit challenging week one. I think that Mean Machine gets it done. Okay. I think that just up and down, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas tandem. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I think New Orleans is going to put up some points on Tampa Bay. I think that game could be a shootout,
okay.
High scoring affair. On the other side, I think that there's a lot of question marks with this team. I don't know about Mark Ingram is going to be the guy throughout the Baltimore season. Right. Melvin Gordon's a new look. Larry's getting up there. Cam's a new look. There's just a lot of question marks for me on the BGT. I think that the Mean Machine gets this one comfortably behind good performances by their defense and coach. Not so clear cut on the upper side, especially if that Tampa Bay Saints game becomes a shootout. I think that Mean Machine takes care of business. I think they get it 122-105.
I'm have to agree with you, man. I think that the Mean Machine takes care of business. But I didn't like the Daniel Jones pick. I really didn't. I thought they could have went with a Matt Ryan, a Drew Brees. They even could have got Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray. They could have went in a lot of different directions than Daniel Jones, and they have such a strong team. But, I mean, we'll see. Jones is at home against Pittsburgh. I still like the Machine big time in this matchup. I love Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. And I'm really excited to see what Miles Sanders does with the bulk of the carries in the Eagles offense this season. So the Machine has a lot of reason for optimism. The Baby Gas team, not as much. The auto draft strategy wasn't as fruitful as maybe one would have expected. Like we said, he's back with DJ Moore again. That was a guy he could have kept. He ended up with Evan Ingram. That was probably one of his better picks. And, I mean, he does have Superman and Dalvin Cook. But other than that, man, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm going to go Mean Machine here, 128 to the Baby Gas team's 107. And moving on to our next matchup, we go into the Omega Conference as Patty's Twins takes on Appease the Gods. All right, man, both of these teams had, I would say solid, I would say Appease the Gods. The Pate's algorithm was in full effect. They had probably, I would say they had an A+ draft grade from my perspective. Patty's Twins, I would say they rounded out with a B. Both teams did well. Both top picks are going to be of consequence for this team, man. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be an exciting matchup. I can tell you two teams that have not fared as well as I think that they should have been over the last few seasons. So it's going to be a reckoning game, I think, and going to be a tone setter for both. I mean, not season defining, obviously. I think both teams, based on the draft, are well positioned in Omega. And I'll say I think Patty Twins has a strong lineup. I just think, as it stands right now, before any games have been played, I think, Appease the Gods has I think, some cupcakes as far as defensive coach go. Okay. I think Colts are favored 7.5 on the road. So, okay. I mean, he's just looking for a win. Yep. Other side, again, I don't think the team is in bad shape. But I do think that, Aaron could potentially struggle at Minnesota. They might be able to get at him.
They've known to give him some horror. shows.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. But I think that, again, both of these teams should walk away from drafts feeling good and well suited. But I do think that Appease the Gods is going to get it done. I think that they put up a performance. I think they're going to go 140 to the Twins 121.
Okay. And I think this was going to be high scoring as well. And I'm going to agree with you. I'm going with Appease the Gods also. And the main reason I'm going with Appease the Gods is because this is going to be a start to a new season for Lamar Jackson. Sour taste in that man's mouth from the divisional round of the AFC playoffs last year. I expect Lamar to come out and put on a show to start off another MVP campaign. It's been reports out of the Ravens camp that this brother is looking even better than his MVP season. And that's a proud defense saying that. So I think that Lamar is going to come out on the Cleveland defense and have a field day, and that's going to really set the tone for Appease the Gods. And I also think that Edwards-Helaire could have a similar debut. I'm not going to say as spectacular as Kareem Hunt's was when he was with Kansas City, but something, similar along those lines. Maybe not a 3 or 4 touchdown game, but maybe 1 or 2 with 100 yards. Just a big game to announce who he is and show that ATG's for real. I like Mike Evans' matchup against New Orleans. Everywhere along the line, I like ATG. On the Twin side, I love Austin Eckler, and I love Sutton on Monday night. And that's about all the love I have for her week 1 lineup. Keenan Allen, we're going to have to see what that looks like with a new quarterback. Robert Woods, we're going to see what Jared Goff looks like without Todd Gurley really back there anymore to lean on. So it's going to be a very interesting week 1. But I got Appease the Gods also winning this matchup. 131 to 124. I say the Twins hang in there, but ATG pulls it out maybe behind a late touchdown that goes to Noah Fant instead of Blake Sutton. And moving on to our next matchup, we go back into the Alpha Conference as Only for the Boss takes on Squad Underestimated. All right, man, these two teams behind ATG, I felt had the strongest drafts overall. Only for the Boss came out strong, truly diversified the roster. Got a guy like James Conner to really carry the load for that team. They've needed a Brahma Bull since LaShawn McCoy left. And then obviously Squad Underestimated, they got 2 Bulls, and they got a new king in Kyler Murray. So what do you think of Underestimated City taking on Only for the Boss, man?
Yeah, agreed. I think that looking at the early draft, I think both teams drafted well. I wasn't expecting James Conner. Frankly, I thought James Conner was going to be off the board, but I mean, again, didn't stumble, went there quick.
Right.
Got Raheem Mostert on the back end of that. Same with Squad. I think getting Kenny Golladay wasn't necessarily the sexiest pick, but solid, best running or wide receiver in the draft. Mm-hmm. And then I applaud going after Kyler Murray and getting their guy.
Right.
I mean, this was the second QB pick in the draft. There was a couple that were going to be going, and so they had to make a move. And I mean, letting it be known, looking at this team, I like how young it is. Frankly, I think that Squad has talent. I think he's built to last, and I think, frankly, this is the kind of matchup that he needs to win.
Okay.
I expect this Kansas City Houston game to be a shootout. I think that both of those teams are going to be putting up points. And so he's going to have to match that tempo, but I think he does. I think he opens the season with a marquee victory. It's going to be a tight one, though. I think he gets a 125, 123.
All right. I'm going the other way, man, and I'm going the other way for a historical reason. The historical reason says that when everything's looking good for Squad Underestimated, something bad is going to happen. And that something bad is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs opening up with their ring ceremony after 50 years of waiting. They're going to open up as the Super Bowl champions on Thursday night, and they're going to put on a show. And I think that Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce are going to put this matchup away really, really early, man. I really think that the Chiefs are going to explode Thursday night. And then I think that James Conner might be the guy who shuts the door with a little touch of Calvin Ridley and Stephon Diggs in between. I love the Boss's roster this season. I really am excited to see their scoring potential because it looks like they can get the scoring from anywhere. What is going to be interesting, though, is now they're not as reliant on the Kansas City Chiefs defense and coach. We're going to have to see their football smarts there and see if they can get those winners on a weekly basis. But if the Boss is able to do that, I love their upside going forward. and this is no knock against Squad Underestimated. I see that they got Saquon Barkley. I see that they got Christian McCaffrey. But I think that the situation that Christian McCaffrey's in didn't get much better. And Stephon Diggs, he's going up against a premier run defense. And I don't think, Saquon Barkley's going up against a premier run defense. So I don't know if he's going to be able to get as loose as he'd like to. I do love Thielen's matchup, and I think Kenny Golladay was one of the best picks of the entire draft. But that being said, I think Only for the Boss shows us something new. I think Ronald Jones gets way more playing time than everybody expects, and the Boss gets this win 131-114. Alrighty, and moving on to our final matchup, we go into our prestige matchup of the week. Rematch of Pantheon Cups 5 and 11. We have last year's Omega Conference champions, the United Players, the Destroyers, taking on the back-to-back defending Pantheon Cup champions, the Argonauts. All right, man, so here we go. Rematch from Pantheon Cup 11 last year. Star-studded lineups. We got Derrick Henry against Ezekiel Elliott, Tom Brady against Drew Brees, Kenyon Drake against Josh Jacobs, Julio Jones against Chris Godwin, George Kittle against Rob Gronkowski. I could go on and on, man. There's matchups everywhere. What do you think of the United Players and the Argonauts? Didn't love either team's draft. I thought the Argonauts draft was average, and I thought the United Players was very below average. What did you think of their draft, and what do you think of this matchup, man?
I mean, I was not impressed with the United Players draft. I think the Argos did just fine, and plus, I mean, the draft historically hasn't been a stumbling block for them. They'll make some trades. I'm sure teams have been contacted.
Okay.
As far as United Players, I mean, Gronkowski, I think for any other team, probably wouldn't have been a bad call. But you already have Tom Brady, and you already have Chris Godwin. I mean, you got a lot of eggs in that Tampa Bay basket. I'm not so sure. Going out and getting, the Chiefs coach and kicker, I mean, I guess will help you out. The Steelers D, I guess, is a mitigating factor. Right. But I mean, I don't see this team on the same roster or same playing field, I should say, as the Argos in this matchup. We'll see if stuff happens differently. I just see a lot of elite talent on the other side, and frankly, when the weak spot on your roster is probably Drew Brees, you're probably doing just fine. Right. So I put the Argos winning this one big. I found winning at 138-104.
Okay, I would have to agree. I think that they do well in this matchup. Didn't like their draft. Didn't feel like they got any established talent. Went with a lot of young guys. But looking at their established talent that they already have, I mean, it's the cream of the crop. Looking at this matchup, though, I'm looking at the United Players, the Destroyers. They really did nothing to replace the talent that they lost, just to make a point. But I don't like the point that they're trying to make. I think that they have way better talent on their roster, and they have way better options. And I think that's something that they need to take into account going into this matchup. In the end, I think the Argonauts are a little bit too much for them. I love the fact that they got Drew Brees back. Like you said, that Tampa Bay New Orleans game is going to be high scoring. The game is in New Orleans, and I'm sure the Saints would love nothing more than for Drew Brees to throw all over Tom Brady's team. Ezekiel Elliott on Sunday Night Football. And then, of course, you got George Kittle coming back for the NFC champion 49ers. There's really nothing not to like about the Argonauts in this matchup. I'm going to go Argo here, 127 to 122. I think that the United Players make it close. And I think that they put up a good game behind Kenyon Drake and Derrick Henry, but I think the Argonauts have a little bit too much for them. All righty, ladies and gents. Thank you for another week of PPL Live. We are ready and roaring to go for a new season. Ulysses as Hate and GENO the Gent signing off. May the odds be ever in your favor. See you next week.